So, philosophy. In the start of this semester, I knew next to nothing about philosophy besides figures like Zizek. Reading figures like Plato, Plotinus, Hume, and Kant provided an excellent segue into the aesthetic tradition. Reading works a part of the Western canon, and the introduced forms brought by Plato was definitely groundbreaking for the time and set the standard for philosophers to go. Explaining key concepts from the Republic like justice and the good and beauty touched on in the symposium by Plato, I hope to bring forth its effect on art and its wider effect on modern society, but as well as contemporary. In Book 10 of Plato's Republic, Socrates gives an explanation of the forms, using an image, then an object, then a form being in the absolute. Art falls into the object, playing an imitation of the form, with the tragic poet being most at risk of damaging a perfect state, in the words of Socrates. Plato's allegory of the cave serves as a perfect example of how future philosophers would approach the forms. Plotinus and his Neoplatonist thought, combining the spiritual ascent brought forward by Plato, like in the allegory of the cave, the knowing of the divine mind would bring a mystical influence to the thought, but also further enforce the hierarchical climb with the one above all representing the good. Thinkers like David Hume and the Standard of Taste would throw out things like the forms and pitch in things like perception, emphasis on the individual, and putting forth sentiment and judgment as being two different things. A modern objective standard of taste would rise in art. Immanuel Kant, in his idealist way of thought, responding to Hume's work in the Critique of Judgment, would introduce the four moments. These moments, like quantity, quality, relation, and modality, provide a unifying interest and disinterest, universality, purposiveness, and necessity, used to define the beautiful, with Hume and Kant applying a more rationalist, empirical state of mind. This would help develop further truth states and works of art. Following contemporary thinkers like Friedrich Nietzsche would go on to discover the origins of Greek tragedy and focus on its wider effect on art, using two Greek gods in the Apollonian Apollo and the Dionysus to represent separate arts. A rather simple explanation, yet effective, is applying figures like SpongeBob and Squidward in roles to Apollo and the Dionysian. SpongeBob, the rather silly Dionysian intoxication representation, and Squidward as the Apollo figure, representing the more hardline serious. Nietzsche's equation of pharmakon and art and beauty serves as an excellent balance of how to view Apollo and Dionysus and handling both. If not showcasing the brutal, harsh realities of life, art will fall into a moral decay, like Nietzsche explains, because art needs life in order to be, and life needs art in order to be justified. Art and beauty serving as the truth to many things also allows for beauty to be used for social control, like tragic poetry could serve a threat to a perfect state. Nietzsche's explanation of the Apollo and Dionysus in establishing a subtle balance of the two provides an important explanation to our more contemporary issues in things like media literacy. With film as an art form, having characters which symbolize different meanings due to the director's intent, modern viewers have found themselves lunging towards chaotic and more Dionysian characters and completely losing the order or rationale in what those characters mean.